Howdy folks, I'm here today at the Wickersham Dome Summit Trail as part of the White Mountains Recreation Area, about 30 miles north of Fairbanks, Alaska. Fairbanks is like that way. I don't know if you can see it on the camera behind me, but right on top of that ridge is a cell phone tower. That's the summit of Wickersham Dome. That's where I'm heading. This trail goes quite a bit further than that. There's I think something like 100 to 150 miles of trail network out here. That summit is only about 3.5 to 4 miles up. My plan today is to go up to the ridge line there, find a nice spot to camp, and stay the night. At the trailhead, you'll see a few signs, including one that shows mileage to Ski Loop Junction, which is roughly the halfway marker for a hike to the summit, plus the mileage to one of the many public use cabins scattered around the trail network. The first few hundred yards of this hike is a moderate ascent through scrubby forest. Before long, you emerge from the trees onto a small hilltop covered in rocks and low vegetation. This is where you get your first view of the summit, and a good spot to just stop and take in the scenery. Coming down the backside of the hill, there's a section of trail that's very often muddy. Trail crews do come out here periodically to do maintenance, and they built this new boardwalk section sometime in the last couple of weeks. I came out here on a day hike about a month ago and none of this was here. You just had to pick your way through a few inches of mud. A little further down, past the new boardwalk construction, was this plastic egg crate material that's been here for a while. And eventually I just had to step through some mud. At the bottom of the hill you reach Ski Loop Junction, where there's a couple more signs. It's a mystery why the sign at the trailhead said it's 2 miles to get here, but now that we're here it's only 1.7 miles back to the parking lot. But okay, if you say so. Taking a right here takes you on the ski loop, which connects back to the parking area by going around the hill you just came over. This is usually overgrown and buggy in the summer, but it's a nice option in the winter. Instead, we're going to head left towards the Trail Summit Shelter, which is actually a couple miles past the summit. Now the trees start thinning out again, and we once again get a view of the ridgeline that we lost when we started coming down the muddy hill. Here's a fun fact. The summit trail doesn't actually go to the summit. It kind of skirts around the edge instead. What I always do here is take one of the small social trails that climbs the ridge directly. Don't forget to take a moment to look behind you. The views are pretty good up here on a nice day, and this is the first spot where you really get a sense of how far you've come. Once you're done pretending to take photos as an excuse to catch your breath, it's time for the final push to the summit. Or at least it would be the final, except I have to come back for the camera. And again. And again. It looks cool though, so I can't complain too much. It's usually pretty windy up here on top. The ground is covered in loose, sharp flakes of rock and there are some big rock formations scattered about. Even in winter the ground is pretty barren because the wind clears off the snow. It's a beautiful but desolate kind of place. Right at the southern end of the ridge is a survey marker. And some kind of rock shelter that someone built to, I don't know, block the wind? I like to imagine someone staying the night in this crude little shelter in winter, but realistically I don't think that's what it's for. Alright, I think I've picked a campsite here. I'm basically right on top of the ridge. Got this big rock thing. Always like a big rock thing. So I'm thinking I might set my tent up right here. Reasons being, it's kind of sort of flat and it's got a little bit of tundra to protect the bottom of my tent from the rock. And the wind is coming from this way, at the moment at least. So this big rock thing is giving me a little bit of wind shelter. I like that. And also it's just going to look kind of cool being camped next to this big rock. I don't know about you guys, but rule of cool is very important to me when picking a campsite. So let's get the tent set up. Okay, I've got my tent set up here. This is a little one-man tent from REI. I like this tent a lot. It's quite light, about 1 kilogram. I am really not at all that confident about my guy tent stakes. This is one of the issues with camping in tundra. There's often not very good ground to stake into. So I am very much biased towards tents with a hoop structure that can somewhat hold their shape, even if you can't get stakes in the ground. So even if all my stakes pull out, I'll still be able to sleep in this. If you have one of those ultralight shelters, they're good in certain situations, but you may not be able to set it up in a place like this. And if you're a hammock camper, good luck. I think there's a tree about 1/4 mile that way. Anyway, I did, where possible, loop my tent stakes under some of the rocks, so maybe they'll hold, maybe they'll pull. Wouldn't be surprised either way. Go inside, you'll see that I put a big rock in the bottom of my tent, just in case the stakes pull, the tent won't blow away. Otherwise, I've got my pad in here, and since it's becoming fall here, and it's expected to get mid-40s at night, I brought my insulated pad, even though it weighs twice as much as my summer pad. I brought a lightweight sleeping bag, and I plan to just kind of wear a layer of fleece to bulk up on warmth in the night. And I got a little inflatable pillow. That's my sleeping setup. Current time is about 8:30. Sun's still got a little while before it sets. If you're not familiar with the sun in the far north, it does not go down, it goes sideways. So it's going to go in an arc that way until it sets in a couple of hours here. Maybe an hour, actually. Maybe we're only an hour away from sunset. But it seems like a good time to set up my stove and get cooking dinner. Okay then, I've got my water boiling for my dinner, as I'm sure you can hear over the microphone here. Dinner's nothing special, plain old Mountain House chili mac, and like some Fig Newtons and fruit bar, applesauce packet, string cheese, and a noon tablet for my water. We can go ahead and add that water. Seal her up to cook. Now we wait. So, sun is about to set. It's kind of about to go behind a layer of low clouds, and then it'll go behind the horizon entirely. I have to admit, I didn't even plan on doing this hike today. I was going to do an entirely different trail. But I got to that trailhead, and there was a fairly significant looking rain cloud forming over that area. So at the last minute, I changed my mind and came here. It looks fairly clear here. However, there is a forecast for 30% chance of rain starting around noon tomorrow. So hopefully I can get packed up and get out of here before then. I brought a rain jacket and a rain hat, but no rain pants. So if it starts raining on me before I have to hike out, that's going to be kind of unpleasant, but not really a big deal. Hopefully we hold out these clear skies for a while. So it's September 4th, Labor Day weekend. This is my favorite time of year here in interior Alaska. The temperatures are very nice for outdoor activities. It's probably high 50s right now as the sun's setting. The low tonight is projected to be mid to high 40s. I'm going to put on my fleece jacket here in just a minute because it is getting a little chilly up here in the t-shirt. But this is a really nice time of year because of the weather and because a lot of the wildfire smokes that we get in summer are gone. And most of the biting insects are gone. That's great. I don't have to carry a frickin' head net and bug spray. We also got all the migrating birds. There's none going over right now, but lots of cranes and geese and ducks flying around this time of year. When the stars align just right, you can see literally hundreds of them in the sky at once. And speaking of the stars, it starts to get dark again this time of year. So this far north in the summertime, it doesn't actually get dark. Fairbanks is still about a degree south of the Arctic Circle, so the sun does technically set all summer, but it only goes a degree below the horizon, so it never gets dark. Starting sometime around the second week of August is when it starts to get noticeably dark outside again, and then by September now, it's dark enough that you can see stars. And hopefully the clear sky holds out a bit tonight because we've had really nice auroras for the last 3 or 4 nights in a row. And I'm kind of hoping we'll get that again tonight. These high cirrus clouds that we have right now are fine. We'll be able to see auroras through that as long as it doesn't thicken up. I'm looking off to the east now towards the original trail I planned to hike today, and there's a big cloud over there. Hope it stays over there. Yeah, hopefully we get good auroras tonight. I just changed the first battery in my camera here. So I brought 3 batteries. One has been exhausted. I got 2 more. If they're Aurora, I will probably use a lot of battery power on that. And my 3rd battery isn't seemingly wanting to work right. Like, it feels like it's expanded and doesn't want to fit in the camera, which is probably a really bad sign, actually. But if I don't have much footage from the hike out tomorrow, that's why.
As the sun started to go down, I hung my food bag from the nearby rock formation to keep it out of reach of the animals. A little foreshadowing here, but it turns out it's a good thing I did that.
Well, it's currently 10 o'clock. The sun set more than an hour ago, so you can see that it really doesn't get dark all that quickly around here. But I just crawled into the tent. I think I'm going to go to sleep. I set an alarm for 2 hours from now, and then I'll check and see if the aurora's out. I think I'm going to leave my door open. There's no insects I need to keep out, so I'll just let it be a little more open in here. If I get chilly, I might close it up for keeping the wind out, or if it starts raining, of course, I'll button up, but we'll see how it goes. Hey, just a head floating in the dark. Well, I've been out here for about 20 minutes watching the Aurora, and it's kind of dissipated and pulled back to the north. So this particular showing is probably over. There's still some glow off to the northern horizon, but honestly, the whole show is kind of weak. I know that probably sounds kind of crazy to those of you who don't see auroras all the time, but we get to see much better than that around here. So I did make myself a cup of hot chocolate while I was watching, so I'm going to finish that, and maybe we'll get another showing later. Might be better. These things tend to be sort of cyclical on like an hour and a half cycle. Builds up, brightens up, and then recesses to the north and starts over again. Unfortunately, I only had about 100 frames on that time-lapse sequence, which is like 2 seconds of video at 30 frames per second, somewhere around there. 3 seconds of video. And so I'm going to have to show that at less than 30 frames per second, probably like 15 or even 10, which I hate to do because it kind of looks kind of bad. But it is what it is. Good morning. It is 6 a.m. Sunrise isn't until 6:40, but I'm awake and kind of wanting to get up and move around. I was going to cook breakfast. I brought some dehydrated biscuits and gravy, but I got out of the tent and noticed that weather that was forecast is starting to move in, so I don't really want to dawdle. I just want to get my stuff together and get out of here before it starts raining. Here's a neat thing. I just opened my tent and climbed out like 5 minutes ago, and there was a fox sitting on that rock right there with my light, the rock that my light's on. 10 feet from the tent. He was sitting right here. I had actually left my camera here shooting time-lapse of the Aurora last night. I just left it till the battery died and was going to pick it up in the morning. So I got out of the tent and looked over to look at my camera. The fox was just hanging out right here next to my camera. You know, I swore several times last night that I could hear footsteps outside. And I kept telling myself that it's my imagination, it's the wind blowing on the tent. Go back to sleep. Maybe it really was footsteps. But anyways, I stood up and looked at the fox. And I said hi, because I don't know what else you would say to a fox. And he kind of hopped down and stepped back 5 or 6 feet. So I tried to walk over as non-threateningly as I could and grab my camera. And it had just enough charge in it to shoot video for about 15 or 20 seconds. So I got a little bit of video of the fox. It's not very good because this camera isn't, it's not quite bright enough out for this camera yet. But you can see that the fox exists. I'm not just making this up. He seemed kind of curious, although wary of me, and sort of paced me from about 10 feet away as I walked around tent camp. And then he took off up in that direction, went over that ridge right there. All right, I'm packed up and ready to go here. Everything's in the bag, except for a couple of things, because I'm going to have a quick snack before I take off in the form of just a fruit bar and an emergency packet and an espresso flavored energy gel. But other than that, I'm ready to take off. I'm probably not going to film on the way down because I'm kind of in the mood to move quickly, and holding a camera in one hand and a microphone in the other hand is not the way to move quickly. So I'll probably check back at the car. Okay, back to the car. It's 7:45 in the morning, which means the sun's been up for an hour, I guess, but who the hell can tell? Made it out before I got rained on. So, what did we learn? What could I have done differently? 1, I carried 3 drone batteries, but only used 1. So at least one of those 2 spare batteries could have been left at home. 2, I carried 3 camera batteries, but kind of wish I had 4. So, drone batteries are way heavier than camera batteries, by the way, so take 1 drone battery out, add 1 camera battery in, that's still a massive weight savings. 3, I carried 3 microphones and only used 2. The 2 that I used were used a lot. They definitely earned their keep, but the third one probably belongs on the chopping block. 4. I started the hike with 5 liters of water in my pack because there's nowhere up there to filter water, so I had to carry everything I needed. Started with 5, still have 3. So I actually only used 2 liters of water, which means I carried 3 liters, which is 6.5 pounds that I didn't need to. Let's assume that I cooked breakfast this morning like I planned. That would have ate another half a liter of water. And then let's throw another half liter in because I don't want to be like riding the line razor thin. I want to have a safety margin. So 3 liters would have been fine. And that would have left me 4.4 pounds lighter at every point during this trip. That's not nothing. And the funny thing about that is I originally planned to bring 3.5 liters, but I started second guessing myself and bumped up to 5 at the last minute. And I guess I should have just trusted myself. And I think that about covers it. So I guess we'll call it a video here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.